and a warm welcome to Dodger's Trips. I'm Dodger. Today I'm continuing my tour of the Waterloo battlefield. I've just been up the Lion's Mound, up there, and now as I pan the camera around facing the French formations, and it was over this land that the massed cavalry charges came. Over in this land here, the Allies formed into squares. The hundreds and hundreds of men who lost their lives on this farmland. Now, at the end of the last video, I mentioned that there'd been torrential rainfall the night before, and come morning time on the 18th of June, Napoleon, who didn't have time to spare, didn't have time to waste, had to wait until 11:30 to allow the ground to dry so his artillery could be manoeuvred, so his cavalry could move. And this here, after some heavy rainfall, is the land, and maybe this is akin to what the French were having to deal with on that morning. Even allowing a couple of hours for it to dry out, it wouldn't really dry out, would it? It looks very clay, but obviously the British, they were entrenched, they'd got their defensive formations, fortified the flanks, fortified the centre with the farmhouses. But it was 11:30 before the opening salvo of the Battle of Waterloo began, when Napoleon's artillery opened fire. As I've mentioned, Wellington very cleverly had his men on the other side of the British ridge, so he was able to shield and combat a lot of that fire, the impact of that artillery fire. Now, Napoleon, as a military cadet, he'd excelled in the skills and the tactics of artillery, and he played great emphasis on the role artillery could play in a battle. But the artillery opened up the battle, and the first massed infantry formations made a beeline. The French made a beeline for Hougoumont farm. Now, it was a feint by Napoleon. What he wanted to see Wellington do was draw troops from his centre to go and reinforce Hougoumont. But Wellington didn't fall for that trick. His formation stood the ground, and the foot guards in Hougoumont farm were left to deal with the French advance. So we'll see a little bit more as we get to the woods and the farmhouse comes into view. So just on this track to Hougoumont, I've come across this information board. The charge of the French cavalry. Welcome to the site of the famous Battle of Waterloo. It was here on Sunday, the 18th of June, 1815, that almost 200,000 men faced each other in a battle for more than 10 hours, with 35,000 horses and under fire from 500 cannons. We are standing where the principal line of English defence was located, deployed by the Duke of Wellington over more than 2 miles. From 4 p.m. onwards, 7 or 8 charges of more than 8,000 French cavalry, led by Marshal Ney, assaulted this line from the south, mainly here for 2 hours under artillery fire from the Allies. However, they were unable to break the English army's defensive square formations. Each of these squares was made up of around 600 men in 3 lines, shoulder to shoulder, all pointing their muskets and bayonets outwards. So up this slope came the French cavalry from across the valley. 8,000. You just can't imagine the sheer size of 8,000 horses, shoulder to shoulder, charging across. And the Allied formations were ready for them here, ready to receive those cavalry charges. repulsing them time and time again. I think in the annals of history there are very few occasions where a British square did break under cavalry assault. Especially the French cavalry assault, as I've already mentioned, was without artillery support, without infantry support. This stone marks the last position of G Troop, Royal Horse Artillery, commanded by Captain A.C. Mercer during the Battle of Waterloo. From here the troop took a conspicuous part in defeating the attacks of the French cavalry. Wow. You know, really from the age when I could start going to the library on my own, maybe like when I was like 8, 9 or 10, could get on my pushback and go to the library and check out books of my own. I very much remember that books about the Battle of Waterloo were right there at the top of my list. Once I was getting to that sort of age, 9, 10. I'd grown up in the 60s, been into cowboys and Indians. Obviously had those sort of figures, then William Britain plastic figures. Then discovered sort of Airfix, the little Airfix figures that you got in a box. So you get about 50 in a box. And buying some of the Napoleonic era troops. Airfix also did a plastic kit where you could build a Waterloo farmhouse. That's what it didn't actually say La Haye Saint or Hougoumont. It was just Waterloo battlefield, Waterloo farmhouse. And I remember getting one of them and building it. And then a few years go by and I get into sort of like maybe 12, 13, and you start discovering Napoleonic wargaming. But this time there were figures made out of metal, and I think they were 20mm or 25mm high. There was never any hope that I was going to have enough money to buy enough of those to recreate the Battle of Waterloo, but that was always a dream. And I continue to be interested in the battle. I mean, I did read the books, but the pictures, the paintings depicting the fighting, I would just stare at those for, inordinate lengths of time, just staring at the detail in the pictures, trying to imagine what it was like. And now I'm here walking this field. I mean, it's took what am I now, 65, it's took 55 years, you could say, to get here. It was always on my to-do list, and I don't know why I've never done it before now, but I'm here. And I'm just trying to take it all in, because you just kind of think that places like this, you're only ever going to come here once, aren't you? Although, there's no reason why you couldn't come again. The chances are, with everything, all the other places in the world, you'll only come here once. So it looks like we're starting to see some signs for Hougoumont. Keep saying it correctly, don't I, every now and again? Hougoumont farm. It looks like there's a track that leads around, so I don't know which is actually the entrance. We'll see if we can figure it out. So this is an information board about the English lines. Here you are in the lane along the ridge held by Wellington's troops. To defend Brussels, Wellington chose to position his forces here. The line of ridges offered cover for his men and made it more difficult for enemy troops to attack, since they were obliged to tire themselves out climbing the slopes. Moreover, heavy rain in the night had turned the terrain muddy and difficult for heavily burdened, exhausted soldiers to negotiate. It was along this lane that the attack of the Imperial Guard, the French Army's elite battalion, was unleashed shortly after 7:30. The Imperial Guard was forced to pull back, which was the signal for the rest of the French army to retreat. At about 8 p.m, the Duke of Wellington was able to advance his troops to victory. The whole of the line will advance, I think were words or something similar. Here we got a sign, which is the way in. That private, privy, private, maybe. We'll walk down because I think there's some other signs further down here. So maybe that, I don't know if that's private or not, but we'll continue down. We're walking down the road still to Hougoumont, which I guess is down at the bottom here. Got a motorway on the right, or a main road. Very noisy. But here in the woods. Now the French infantry started the battle proper with the first assault on Hougoumont farm. And they made the way through woods. And I think the farm actually had an orchard as well. And I believe there's only one tree still standing that was here at the time of the battle. So we'll continue on. Can't be too far away now. Just catching a glimpse of the farm. There it is. Looks like there might be a walking trail around the perimeter. Let's see what this information board has to say. You are standing in front of Hougoumont Farm, chosen by Wellington to complete his defence system in the west. It was against this farm that Napoleon launched his first attack at about 11:30 a.m, headed by his brother Jerome, with the aim of making Wellington withdraw from the centre of his line of defence. The Allies resisted, and the Duke did not fall into the trap. The British Guards did not give the French troops the opportunity to infiltrate the farm, and the assaults continued relentlessly for more than 9 hours. Thus, Hougoumont became the site of a battle within the battle. At the turning point of the fight, reinforcements and munitions entered by the northern gate from the Allies' main line, situated 500 metres away. This gate was not barricaded, unlike the other entrances. This is probably why about 40 French soldiers succeeded in forcing their way into the farm, until 10 brave English and Scottish soldiers managed to close the gate again. This marked the decisive episode in the defence of Hougoumont Farm, and in the words of the Duke of Wellington, the success of the battle turned upon the closing of the gates at Hougoumont. So I wonder if that is the gate that he's talking about, because this is facing the Allied lines. I think that there's another grander gatehouse further round, but we'll find out, hopefully, the truth of that. So yeah, there's a sign here, Hougoumont, to walk round. I can hardly believe I'm here, you know. It is so wonderful to me. Like I say, I devoured, many a book about Waterloo when I was a school kid, but not much since. So anything that I'm relating is sort of schoolboy history. So you can always find out more, can't you, yourself, if you want to do a bit of research. But here we are. at the gate. And there's a welcome board. That's just a general map of the area showing the highlights. In memory of the officers and men of the 2nd Battalion who died defending this farm June the 18th, 1815. 3rd Regiment of Foot Guards. So this is the gate. Not the original gate, but the gate where the gate was sighted. And a few French soldiers managed to gain entry into the courtyard, but were repulsed. And there's a famous painting, I think it's entitled Closing the Gates at Hougoumont. I'll put it up on the screen. Let's see if we can see over the wall. It's supposed to be open, but I don't... That wasn't very open, was it? That's a memorial to closing the gates. I'll be very disappointed if we're not able to go in, because I come specifically at the weekend, because the museums at this time of year are only open weekends. Didn't come during the week. Hopefully the entrance is around here, but it's not looking good. I'm guessing that tree there, a very sparsely branched tree, is a tree that looked down upon the Battle of Waterloo. New roof. There was various fires broke out during the battle, as you can imagine. The troops firing from them positions up there in those windows. In memory of General Baudin, 18th of June 1815. This is the wall that would have been the main barricade against the French forces that came through the woods to attack the farm. There would have been men on ramps on the other side that put holes in the wall as firing slits. I believe you can stay up there. There's an apartment you can memorial there to the Coldstream Guards in memory of the officers and men of the 2nd Battalion Coldstream Guards who, while defending this south gate from successive attacks throughout the 18th of June 1815. Please enter your ticket code to enter. Ticket code 9156. Oh, cool. Wow. Glad that worked. Oh, this. Oh, such a strange feeling come over me as I came through the gate there. This is standing in history. You've got to assume this is a fragment of a tree that saw the battle in those woods through which the French infantry attacked. Oh, the gate's open on that side. So if I don't speak for a moment, I just want to take this in. Got to assume is that a small chapel there in the centre. Let's have a look. Here we are, panoramic view. So I've just come through this gatehouse here. The gatehouse there. As I say, I think there's an apartment above there that you can rent if you wanted to actually stay on a piece of Waterloo history. This is all, you've got to connect to the internet, and I haven't got a clever phone like that. But we'll walk down to the gate. That was a major turning point in the battle. If the French had been able to occupy the farm on the right of Wellington's army, they would have started to roll back the Allied lines and headed towards the centre of Wellington's forces, rolled them back up the field. Now this is an old well. What stories could you tell? Well, I just wrote some poetry. So the brickwork, I'm sure that they've used some original and this newer bricks and the new piece of wood across the top, brand new gates, but this is where it happened. 40 French infantry, bayonets fixed, forced their way into this compound. And if they'd managed to make a breakthrough, others would have followed and quickly swamped, because the British were all facing outwards, defending the attacks coming in from the woods. The chapel, that was on fire, there was a fierce fire going there. And this is a relatively new monument, and it depicts closing the gates. So again, another play on that saying from Wellington, next to a battle lost, the greatest misery is a battle gained. The army never, upon any occasion, conducted itself better. The British Army closing the gates on war, which, as we already said, closing the gates at Hougoumont could have been a decisive factor. Wellington couldn't afford to reinforce the troops in here. Oh, the geese making a noise in the fields there. So this was the supply route. Keep munitions coming in, keep the defenders stocked with ammunition from the British line, which was along that track we've just walked upon. All these cobbles. What blood has flown. Just can't imagine it. When you see that picture, the franticness, the determination, the grit to close those gates against overwhelming forces, really pushing from the outside. So all these trees look new. I look old. I don't believe they're from the Waterloo battle. Let's walk up here. Could bring a conker home from Waterloo. A conker from Waterloo. Wow. Yeah. Souvenir de Waterloo. All brickwork. As we get to see where the orchard was in that area there, I believe. We'll see the exterior wall. Obviously, the French had come round to try and gain entry into that gate, so they were attacking from more than one direction. But the vast superior numbers of French forces came from the woodland. Maybe that provided shelter on the approach. What a fantastic piece of history that this is still intact, still, oh, I mean, it's just as it was, really, isn't it? You can see it's got a brand new roofs, but the look of the place, the size of the place is exactly. And this, of course, the scene of an intense fire. There's another memorial on the wall here. First Regiment of Foot Guards, in memory of the officers and men of the light companies of the 2nd and 3rd Battalions who died defending Hougoumont. This tablet was erected in 1977 by their successors of the 1st or Grenadier Guards. So I normally keep horses grazed in here. with these walls that took the brunt of the French attacks. We can see over there in the distance the Lion Mound. And as we approach, there's memorials in the wall. There's rifle slits hastily broken through. In memory of Captain Thomas Crawford of the 3rd Guards, eldest son of the Baronet of Kilburn, killed in the extreme southwest angle of this wall. This stone was placed by his kinsman, Sir William Fraser of Moray, 1889, Scots Guards. So I'm standing in the footsteps, those English regiments of foot. What on earth was it like? We just can't imagine it, really. It's impossible to imagine it. The rifles firing in anger through here. The French with no doubt with the siege ladders they would have used, madly trying to get over these walls all the way along the length. You can see at intervals. So there was firing through the holes in the wall. Some lower than others. Others that would have been stood on planks or some form of platform, firing out at the French onslaught. How special to walk in this place. But yeah, Wellington, a request was sent to help reinforce the defenders here, but he said, all I can give him is my best wishes. John Lucy Blackman, Waterloo, 18th of June, 1815. There is a small platform up ahead. We'll be able to see over the wall. Again, the rifle slits. The noise of battle. They would have been here, wouldn't they? Isolated really from the rest. Although they were getting supplies through, they were isolated. It was a pocket of resistance to the French here. A battle in its own right. They would have no idea of what was going on elsewhere on the battlefield. Oh, here we are. We get the opportunity. I love the old brickwork. Oh, this is very precarious. Wave after wave of the massed formations of the French. And it's in front of that tree line where the English line was, the front line, so it was out on a limb a little bit here on the right flank. I mean, from here you can't see the remainder of the French army. So they were just literally fighting for their own lives here, and this is all they knew of the battle. Farmers must have turned up an awful amount of items lost during the battle here. Just try not to put my foot through the decking. Continue down the line. Presumably it's still a farm to some extent. There's keep horses in here, and there's signs saying do not feed horses with electric fences. And massed ranks of the French coming towards you. And this is all you see of the vast battlefield of Waterloo. Just through this little hole. And how ferocious must it have been when the French got up to the walls itself. What determination to keep a superior force at bay through all those hours of the battle. And there's a memorial here in the centre of this pasture. Looks like a French eagle. A monument. The Belgian Society of Napoleon, something by the looks of it. To the soldiers of France killed at Hougoumont, 18th of June 1815. I don't know if anybody's seen that new Ridley Scott film depicting the life of Napoleon, simply called Napoleon. Joaquin Phoenix is the star of it. I'm sure there'll be from that film released just before Christmas, I'm sure there's going to be a heightened interest in the battlefield and Napoleon's life as we go into the summer months, and maybe this will be a bumpy year for visitors to the battlefield. I watched the film and it was okay. I would only give it maybe a 7 out of 10. And it covered all his life, so it was an immense subject to try and cram into whatever it was, two and a half hours. And I didn't think the Battle of Waterloo was done that well, really. For me, the ultimate film version has to be the Christopher Plummer Rod Steiger version, the 1970 film Waterloo. And I mentioned as like a sort of 8, 9, 10-year-old getting into the Battle of Waterloo from the books in the library. Well, I was lucky enough to go see that film on release, so I would have been 11, going on for my 12th birthday when that came out in 1970. And I've watched it a few times since. Watched it just recently before this trip, and it's still a great film for me. In fact, I'll probably watch it again when I return back to the UK. So there, Hougoumont Farm. We'll have a walk around the outside where there's that sort of footpath. So we'll go a different way back. Restoration of the chapel with the support of Separatist International of Belgium, Global Voice for Women. Are these is this the charred brickwork from the battle? And obviously the restoration was to preserve what was left. You look up above, is that just mould from water running down, or is it fire stain? Can't see him, but just looking through the gaps. It is a chapel, no doubt the whole service is here, maybe on the anniversaries, full of wreaths of poppies. Visitors are earnestly requested to treat this chapel with respect, for within its walls on the memorial, many of the brave defenders of Hougoumont passed to their rest. So maybe this was maybe it's fortified, maybe it's fired from, or maybe it's just used as a place to bring the injured and the dying. Just search Hougoumont Farm if you want to find out more. Fill in the gaps that I'm not able to tell you. I'll certainly be reading a lot more when I get back. Looks from the brickwork there that there's been a doorway into the buildings at there, or a window. Some more visitors coming in. I don't want to leave this place really. It's cold. I'll just sit a while, I think. I think when you've wanted to come somewhere for almost your entire life, when you finally get the chance, like I'm getting this weekend, you just want to take as much of it in as you can. You try to visualise what things were like on that day in here. But no movie, no reading about it, no paintings are ever going to get near. Maybe an idea to seek out a book that has actual remembrances by the people who fought at the battle, journals, diaries. reports. Maybe that's the only way that you might get some inkling of the ferocious fighting and the suffering. Anyway, it's got a small light aircraft going overhead. So I'll just sit here a while and just, enjoy being here. So I'll say au revoir to Hougoumont farm. Oh, I'm gonna get. Didn't want to leave it. Didn't think I was gonna leave there. Get to leave. Seems quite a popular route for walkers and cyclists around this track. So I'm going to head back that way, I think. In remembrance of the men that fell at Hougoumont on the 18th of June 1815, this chestnut tree, symbol of the wood that stood here, was planted to commemorate the 250th anniversary of the birth of the Duke of Wellington, May 2019. So yeah, a single tree, but this was a huge woodland. And maybe this is the tree. Look at the size of it. Even the these trees that saw the action on that day. Amazing. They would have been pummeled by musket fire, wouldn't they, anyway, and artillery rounds, no doubt. Who knows, could the French use the artillery with the wood offering almost protection to them approaching the farmhouse, but also to the defenders in a way. So what he's saying here, the Hougoumont chestnuts. Are battle-ravaged trees. I think there's quite a well-known painting as well from the assault on this side of the gatehouse. See if we can find that and put that up on the screen. There we have Hougoumont farm. Been a long time to get here, and I've literally spent about 30 minutes. But I'll always remember this visit. Special place. I hope you've enjoyed that look around, and I'll see you on the next Waterloo film. I'm not sure what I'm going to be doing this afternoon or the remainder of the day, but you'll see it. So join me for the next one, will you? Okay, till then, Dodger and out.